Hey guys, so you might remember that there was a patch note announcement about 3 weeks ago at this point by Blizzard. It had a couple of light touches as well as some big rework attempts for things like the Raven. So if you're a part of the StarCraft community, you probably know this. If you watch the YouTube, well, then I did a YouTube video on it. What we only recently found out, or I guess me in particular, is that they've actually been kind of stealth updating those patch notes. Now, why they would not make bigger announcements about the update to the patch notes, I'm not really sure. We have had in the past this happen, but it was one of those situations where even if you disagreed with it, the concept was that they were small touches, right? So they changed like, 0.01 to 0.02, or they fixed the way that a dynamic works, kind of like in the programming. And then, obviously the community would go like, hey, no, it's a really big deal. You should have told us that. These changes to this patch are actually they're just big. There's like anyone would see the changes and say, okay, I wish I was alerted to that. So I'm not sure why they've kind of stealthily done this, but you can actually see the progression of patches if you go to the mod in the StarCraft 2 custom lobbies. So we've been playing on the mod patch test mod, there we go, for the Open Cups, Korea, Europe, and North America the past 2 weeks, and they would use this balance test mod. And if you went to its patch notes, you could see actually like 1.7's up here, this is 1.6, and then I think they skipped 1.5 kind of weirdly. And then you can actually see the progression of what they've changed. So a few days ago, this made a bigger announcement on the community because someone actually posted it and said, hey, they're really changing the Liberator. And then everyone came in and was like, oh, this is a dumb idea. Why are they doing this? And to be honest, if you do look at this Liberator change, I don't think it's a good idea at all. But on the same exact day, unfortunately it's cut off a little bit, they released 1.7 on January 2nd, so like hours later, and noted all of these. So this is what we're currently dealing with. This is the current patch everything is played on. But if you didn't know that they've been including this in these patch notes, you would have no other announcement from Blizzard or ESL or anything saying that there have been differences made. So I figure a video would do a really nice job of first of all, announcing that, hey, maybe pay attention to this more than anything else, but then also kind of going over the the direct comparisons between what I'm going to call the blue post, because it's blue, and then the gray post. So this is apparently where everything that is updated actually goes to. So probably something they also use in-house, right? So there's a few word changes, sometimes to make the concept clearer, and then other times, I guess, just to, I don't know, make it a bit different. And then there are also the actual changes, which we'll just go by like direct comparison and talk about those. So this is January 3rd. We're apparently going to have the supposed rumor, I guess, with the patch coming in, supposed to be the 5th, because there's maintenance on the 5th, so in a couple of days. So anyways, I want to get this out there really quick. I don't know if they're going to change it again. I maybe should have checked today. I guess I'll do that after the video and redo the video if that is the case. But anyways, I wanted to do the direct comparison right now because this might very well be what our final patch is. But I guess they have 2 days to decide. So this is what was announced December 7th, again, basically a month ago at this point. And then this is what is currently all of the changes. So they're not going to have the same progression like you would see if you did go into BattleNet and look at the mod, but just rather the complete and total, this is what's going to change is on this, which is rentry.co/UZ75F. Editing Magic will make that appear. So you guys can also track it. All right, let's do it. Let's go into the meat and potatoes of the video, which is going to be the comparison. So we have the first off being the Zerg. Now, what they also did with the new one, by the way, guys, there's a bunch of like supposed like miscellaneous bug fixes, quality of life changes. They also included the bigger quality of life changes and bug fixes in these patch notes. That's another thing that's different, but yeah. So we'll start off with Zerg, and we have the creep tumor being very specific in these patch notes, but is effectively the same. Just, yeah, They just rounded up. Then we have the hatchery, lair, and hive. So they use creep spread interval decreased from 0.3 to 0.25, accelerating the spread. So they just, again, kind of change the wording a little bit to describe what's happening more clearly. But it is, again, the exact same thing. No changes there. Viper is also no change. But they explained they didn't use the phrase cast finish time. They just said after abduct, the Viper cannot move use abilities. Which I feel like, weirdly enough, the thing that is more secretive is actually more basic, layman's terms kind of situation. So it's another weird aspect to it. Anywho, Ultralisk is the same. Actually, no, it's different. Sorry, the size is the same. The size reduction is the same, so it's looking a little babby Ultra. But then the range slop, right? They use the official terminology for this. They instead said increase extra range before an ongoing attack cancels. So that's the explanation of what range slop is, and then even further explanation behind below. So they used to change it from 1 to 1.4, now it's changed to 1.25, so I'm guessing in practice the Ultra was actually too effective. So that got a little, like, nerf, I suppose. Hydralisks, I want to say, are the same. I kind of briefly went over this on stream. Yeah, and again, describing what damage point means. So if you guys don't remember, damage points basically how much they are microable. So a Marine has a very low damage point, reducing lots more time for movements, yeah. And then a Hellion has like a high one, I believe, is the big contrary unit. So we can all notice how long it takes the Hellion to stop and then shoot. So yeah, that stays the same. Broodlord move speed was increased 1.97 to 2.3. This got more specific, 2.24. And then here's another thing that kind of was just a clarification. So on the blue post, it said Broodlord, and then Broodling is like in the next section, not even a subsection. Duration reduced. And that was it. Here they put duration of spawned broodlings, so very specific spawn broodlings, so from the Broodlord, not when buildings are killed, and then they put it underneath the Broodlord title, so that makes it very clear that they're just talking about broodlings from a Broodlord. It was unclear in this one. Ravager also was, again, super specific. Build time is now at 12.14 seconds instead of 12.9, and they removed a random delay aspect that is actually in a lot of different StarCraft things. We just don't necessarily think about all that often, but the pros definitely do. Now, moving on to Protoss, we have the shield battery being the same change, but worded differently. So this is the total amount of recharge rates, and then they instead wrote the additional amount of recharge rate here, but it does work out to be the same. And then further specified the amount of total shields. Observer did get a slight change, so if you recall, move speed and model size both changed. Initially, model size was increased by 17.5%, so it was a big honkin' Observer. Went on a little bit of a diet like the Ultra, and actually is only increased by 10%. And then they just clarified that the movement speed upgrade for Observers still remains the same, 50% increase. Archon, again, further explained, detailed explanation about why it can now fit between buildings, but that is the same. High Templars are exactly the same, move speed increase. Disruptor radius, exactly the same. Carriers got a change from their change. It's always weird doing this. But carriers used to have the shields of the interceptor reduced, and the flying radius around the target was increased. And that was pretty sure that's like a confirmed thing. Its intent was to make it a bit better against splash, so they wouldn't clump up as much, but I think the actual execution made some other problems. So they got rid of those two things. So now the only thing about the carrier is that it is going to be primary targeted by all of the units because its priority has been changed. Sentry, not only does its build time get reduced, so that was something that we knew from the blue post, it now also has a movement speed buff for reasons. I do think it actually kind of helps. 0.35 is kind of big in StarCraft. And then the Forge upgrades are just further detailed. No rounding happening on these ones. And this, to be clear to everyone out there, is kind of more of a, I would honestly almost call it a fix. They got nerfed a long time ago and people wondered why, and then this is kind of reverting them back to be on par with the other races. Anyhow. So Terran, I got this wrong initially when I read this because I just, you don't hear Viking fighter mode very often. It's like air mode and ground mode, right? This is air mode. Ground mode, I believe, is assault mode. With air mode, damage point, remember the Hydras also have their damage point changed, reduced. So these make it a lot more microable from 0.12 to 0.04. So again, how they move and shoot basically and how microable they are. So that got buffed. And talked about this with my stream a little bit, and it does seem to be the idea, anyways. I don't think we ever get like confirmation from the guys. Is that this is a response to the Raven change? Now that the Raven is slightly different as well, so the Vikings can be a little bit better against them. But as to whether or not that's actually necessary, that's the part of the debate. So that's brand new. That's brand new. The Liberator also went through, if you did go into the patch notes on the StarCraft 2 mod, again, this one, you could see their initial attempt for the Liberator to change it was a whole heck of a lot. And it was totally unnecessary. I really don't think it has to be changed. I would not be at all surprised if this was actually not even supposed to be implemented whatsoever, and there was miscommunication on some of the, interns, I guess, that work there. And so that's why this was released January 2nd, and then patch 1.7 was also released January 2nd, but that's a different thing. That's a different thing. So going back to what actually has changed, the Liberator cost reduced, which, okay. It's 25 less gas. I didn't think that. I'm not sure what they're trying to target with that, but I'm sure someone's got the reasoning for it. And then moving on to more of the direct comparisons, the blue post, we have the Ghost, basically exactly the same changes. Yes. And then they included a quality of life fix, bug fix, with the steady targeting being canceled as basically a actual change to the Ghost because it was rather important. Banshee, I believe, is the same. Reduced upgrade time, reduced costs, the same. Cyclone is the same. And then again, mentioning a bug fix that's actually very impactful to the units. It will prioritize air units if they have an anti-ground attack. Sensor tower reduction, same. Raven rework, definitely not the same. So this is still one of the bigger reworks that they have right now for the patch. So if you recall the blue post, gas cost reduced, build time reduced, starting energy increased, interference matrix reduced in time, anti-missile reduced by 1, Corvid reactor upgrade removed, and auto turret energy cost increased from 50 to 75. So you'd have the same auto turrets, but you'd have less of them. You'd also still be able to pop with one because that was pretty important in a lot of TVTs, but yeah, you just have less of them as the Raven maxes out on energy. They have changed this pretty much entirely. So now they're moving to more of a concept of same amount of auto turrets, but drastically less of them. And Showtime was cool enough to come to my chat and kind of explain the thought process behind this one, which was that apparently Terrans thought that the old rework would make it too ineffective at harassments, which I honestly didn't think about harassment at all. It is commonplace in StarCraft 2 professional games. I just was much more focused on more direct engagement issues. But we can just go ahead and go over the differences. We have gas cost reduced, still the same. Build time reduced, still the same. Yes, exactly. Corvid reactor upgrade still removed. Now we have, and also the anti-missile armor reduction is also still the same as it was. But now we have the auto turret being different. Shout out to the anti-armor missile tint color is also now brighter, which is not super important. But yeah, the auto turret is now very different. So old rework concept is going to make less auto turrets, but the same quality of auto turrets. This one is going to make the same quantity and lower quality. So the auto turrets aren't as good. Auto turret duration reduced by 2.2 seconds. Auto turret health reduced by 50, and the armor reduced by 1 from 1 to 0, and then it no longer gets affected by Neo Steel armor, which was only really affecting like super late game TVT, but it was affecting it. So they make auto turrets still available, but they are worse. So you also, again, get one right off the bats, and it's still going to be very effective at handling some of the very early game pressures, but some of the more mid and late game situations, they're actually going to be killable, which is, I think, a nice trade-off, actually. The fact that auto turrets were so durable might have been one of the bigger problems. I really had to think long and hard about this one, whether I preferred the new one or the old one. And I do think I prefer the new one, because the auto turret itself is it's got a lot of things going for it aside from all these things that have now been nerfed. And two of the big things that you still get, and a lot of it, because again you're getting your old number of auto turrets back, is the high threat priority that auto turrets have. So units will attack the auto turret first is something that does affect the matchups. And then also the SimCity aspect of the auto turret. You can still kind of, instead of 3 auto turrets not quite making a wall, 4 auto turrets kind of make a wall, right? So some of the more subtle things to it, those are still now intact, which we might have changes in the future. But overall, the auto turret is something that's something we can deal with it now, I guess. All the races can now kind of like purposefully shoot at it and not just waste their time or feel like they're combating a super high quality unit. And then we have some of the miscellaneous bug fixes, quality of life changes that were not as impactful to individual units or races, but they're still included. To be honest, I didn't really go over these ones, so I'm not sure which ones have changed and which haven't. All units follow acquire range. I remember that one being different. Yep, that's the same. Banshee first missile is no longer delayed. That's a new one. That's a new one. I don't see Banshee over here. How about that? First missile is no longer delayed by 0.11 seconds after attack completes. The Banshee could even start moving away before the first missile was launched, made them more microable. And the second missile will also be 0.11 seconds faster. So it's going to change the micro a little bit. I think you're going to see a lot of Terrans mishandle them a little, like a tiny little bit more awkwardly. It's not going to be a huge deal. Dark Templar, attack delay, same. Factory, so that things don't get trapped between factories, same. Widowmine, random burrow delay, same. No longer target Zerg cocoons. Oh, okay, they changed the wording. So they are talking about the larva, specifically, which was what we predicted, but just to be clear. And then now they are no longer targets units affected by neural parasite without a manual order, to make it more consistent with other units. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I did remember that being a interesting fact. That was kind of a bummer. Cyclone had to get a fix, and both of those fixes are the same. Again, just specifying cocoons. Shield battery stop bug is fixed, even though I think it was kind of a cool thing about StarCraft 2. It's fine. Apparently, they also got an animation model created snapshots and fog issue. Interesting. So that would make a shield battery appear out of nowhere, I guess, seemingly in the fog, so people would not see a shield battery, and then they would. Fixed tooltip, not scaling values. I mean, that's probably not super important. Adept change looks like it's going to be the exact same. Queen, both the same. Lurkers, attack. So blue post attacks will no longer be blocked by certain low ground terrain features. New gray posts. We have the unburrow random delay thing, which was, I could have sworn was in here, but apparently not. Okay, so that changes. Attacks will no longer be blocked, right? And then fix an issue where units loaded in transports could be damaged. Okay. Hydralisks got 2. There's a third one here. Fixing a Hydralisk attacked faster at melee range. That was funny. Morph to Lurker would be canceled. Okay, so this third one is remove Morph to Lurker random delay. Yeah, okay. Stasis Ward, samesies. Raven, it's a third one. Interference Matrix now pauses Immortal Barrier cooldown for the correct amount of time. Oh, it was 2.2 seconds slower than it should have been. Swarm Hosts, fix an issue where Zerglings and Swarm Hosts cannot receive queued more. Cannot be given commands while unburrowing. Oh, this is different. Spawn Locusts no longer interrupt the current order. Or maybe it's the same. I don't have enough time to think about it. You guys tell me. And then the subgroup priority change from Hatchery Lair Hive to Hive Lair Hatchery. Oh. That's actually very interesting. I wonder how many Zergs are gonna have to get used to not tabbing. Although, I mean, how often are you really tabbing between these? To specifically get to a high first. I don't know, that's interesting. I'm sure there's a reason Zergs. Okay, this can't, there's no way Terran was like, you know what Zergs really need? There's got to be some reason that the professional Zergs are like, this is really annoying. If we could just change it to this, that'd be great. But again, I can't think about it too long, as I don't want this video to be forever. And then a bunch of general fixes that I'm not going to go over, because you guys now have access to the new patch notes. So you guys can look at this one, and let me know if there is anything super important that I might have missed. But yeah, stealth changes. Why they're being a bit stealthy about some fairly large things, like the Raven rework, not really sure. I don't really know. You know, because it's not like you add this mod and you know, there's a big like flashing announcement to the people adding the mod to the lobby saying, hey, there's new shit. Like, no, you'd actually have to really look. So not surprising. I would not be surprised if a few players played with the new Raven, that is the Blue Post Raven, and then we're dealing with this and they didn't know about it. But yeah, I guess it basically caught on like wildfire. Someone posted, hey, there's changes, and then now everyone knows that there's changes, and if you didn't, well, now you do because you watched this video. So thank you very much for that. So interesting. Don't know why they did it this way, but they are continuing to fine-tune the patch. They only apparently have a couple more days to do it because the current rumor is that it's going to be put alongside the maintenance that is happening in 2 days on Thursday. But then we'll see if that actually goes through. Would not be the first time that it was a missed call, or they just realized they needed more time to do something, whatever. But that's also should be when we get the new season and also new maps, which apparently pros can't say what the new maps officially are, but they can stream and practice on the new maps. So there's some gray area there. But yeah, we'll get all that supposedly January 5th. Let me know what you guys think about the new patch, if there was anything important that I really missed out on, and if you like the direction that they are going. As usual, I try not to have a super strong opinion on these things. I am very interested to see how the Raven works out, though, and if you want to see some of this stuff in action, my casting YouTube channel is going to have the VODs from this week's European Open Cup on it today, tomorrow, and every other day besides that. So definitely go there as I start to lose my voice. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.